and welcome to Reliving My Youth. My name is Noel. My guest this week is Maryedith Burrell, the actress, producer, comedian, director, probably best known for her time on Fridays, which was ABC's answer to SNL on NBC. Show ran for a few seasons in the early 80s. It was fantastic. It also had some great musical guests. In fact, Maryedith discusses which Rock and Roll Hall of Famer she took to the dentist. She discusses some of her favorite skits, as well as the infamous Andy Kaufman skit, which she was very much a part of. Following Fridays, Shelley Duvall hired Burrell to work on Faerie Tale Theatre for a few episodes. And if you remember Faerie Tale Theatre, it had so many amazing actors, very high-profile actors, as well as big-time directors to work on the show. Award-winning, was on Showtime. You can probably find episodes of it on YouTube, like everything else. She also worked on the TV adaptation of Parenthood, the very first one, Ron Howard's version, and she took over the role that Diane Weiss played in the movie, which she was nominated for an Oscar. Maryedith did a great job on the show. The show also featured Ed Begley Jr., David Arquette, and Leonardo DiCaprio, who played Maryedith's son. We discussed working with Leo. Maryedith was also on Seinfeld for a few episodes. We discussed her time on the show. Also discussed what she's up to these days, and really enjoyed my conversation with her, and I hope you do as well. So, Maryedith, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Well, pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So, what are you up to these days?
I'm on my way to California. The past few years, I've been doing documentaries. Getting into doing documentaries. I'm in a wonderful position. I get to do some things that I enjoy doing. I'm not really chasing jobs like I used to back in the day. So now I sort of get to work with friends and do things that that I really want to do and spend my time that way. A few years back, I worked with a group of friends, director Janice Engel and producer Carlisle Vandervoort and James Egan, on a documentary about Molly Ivins,
Okay.
the author and the columnist, the journalist that had a column in 500 syndicated newspapers back in the day. And she was a wonderful critic of the Bush family that she grew up with in Texas,
Mhm.
editor of the Texas Observer.
Okay.
And just a really cool character. And so it was an independent project, and we did really well at Sundance and South by Southwest and got picked up for a feature release with Magnolia. And, it just sort of took off, and it was the right time to talk about someone who
Mhm.
was such a proponent, for the ACLU and stuff. So nonfiction's been really good to
Mhm.
me. And so a couple of the investors in that
Yeah.
project want to work with me again.
Oh,
So
great.
so I'm going out to California and put together a project about Silicon Valley, a little bit different than, the Frontline doc, Frontline.
Right.
I love Frontline. They're fantastic. But, we know Steve Jobs, we know these other boys and Woz and all those guys, and that's great.
Yeah.
But there's more to Silicon Valley than just tech
Right.
and computer stuff. I mean, that's where they did the acid experiments with Tim Leary at Stanford. That's where they did where the farm to table movement took off up in the Bay Area. That's where the whole, Haight Ashbury scene happened.
Mhm.
So it's sort of like, why is that area of the planet
Yeah.
an innovative place?
Right.
What is it about being on the Pacific Ocean in San Francisco
Mhm.
Bay that somehow, makes people go, hey, let's try this.
Yeah.
So that's sort of where we're going with it. But, I'll keep you posted.
Uh,
I'll let you know when it happens.
oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing a lot of nonfiction right now, which is fun. And I've been doing some teaching out here and stuff, and working with a lot. There's a lot of writers in these hills, a lot of novelists,
Yeah.
a lot of environmentalists, and so it's a pretty creative area out here in the Great Smoky Mountains.
Yeah. So, how did you end up there? Being a California girl and all.
Well, I was raised in Northern
Oh,
California, and
yeah.
spent, more years than I ever thought I would spend in Los Angeles. But it was time for me to make a move. I wanted to get out of LA. I've spent a lot of time in New Mexico also. And you know, I was at a position as a writer where I've been doing a lot of work as a script doctor for studios. And
Mhm.
so I could really be anywhere I wanted to be.
Right.
And I wanted a forest. So I had one. I
Yeah.
had one for 15 years so far. Yeah.
Right. Especially now with technology, you can do that anywhere,
Exactly.
which
I
is
don't, I
great.
don't even know where you are, Noel. Where are
I'm in
you?
Ma- I'm in Manhattan, so no forests
Oh,
around here.
okay. All right. Well, you got the park. You got
Yeah,
the
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, just a concrete jungle, you know.
exactly.
Yeah. So like for people who don't know, a strip doctor is what do they do?
Well, a script doctor is a writer that producers have relationship with. And what happens a lot of times before a movie is greenlit, there, there will, and casting occurs. It's usually when casting occurs, and some of the stars may have issue with some scenes, or they may not be able to get the talent they want
Right.
because the talent thinks the character is shallow, or, uh, you know, for whatever reason, they need to do a polish or a punch up. They want to do the
Yeah.
project, but they can't put it together they want because they're getting notes from other
Yeah.
people saying this doesn't work for me, blah,
Right.
blah. So they'll hand it to a writer that they know is reliable, that they've worked with before. They'll throw too much money at them because they'll say you
Yeah.
have to fix this in a week.
Okay.
They're paying for emergency services is what they're paying for.
Right.
And that writer won't get screen credit, but they'll get too much money for a
Money.
week's work.
Yeah.
Or 2 weeks, depending on what needs to be done.
Right.
I have a tendency to get projects where they can't get female talent because,
Yeah.
the character's a Barbie, or
Right.
one dimensional. The character is there to show that the hero is heterosexual or something, and they can't get the big name to do it because they're not stupid.
Right.
Yeah, they're actresses, they're good actresses.
Yeah.
That seems to be the bulk of it these days for me. Um, so I've been doing a bit of that. And then I get to do my documentary projects, which has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, I'm doing okay right now.
No, no, that's great. I mean, like documentaries now, I mean, with all the streaming sites and they all have them. You know,
Yeah.
there's so many you can't watch them all. There's just every day there's
Well,
five more appear and it's
yeah,
fantastic.
that's what I think is fantastic. I mean, now, I have friends that only want to watch documentaries. The new Billy Joel doc is kind of
This
cool.
was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think they did a brilliant job with that,
Yeah.
and you know, I I've gone in and out of being a fan of Billy Joel's, over the years. I
Yeah.
mean, he's been
Right.
around for a really long time.
Yeah.
And I know him from back in the 70s in LA, for heaven's sakes. And
Okay.
and brilliant musician, but he's had his ups and
Yeah.
downs,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
artistically and everything else, but beautifully done documentary. And
Yeah.
people don't realize what a musician the guy is. I mean,
Yeah.
classically trained pianist, the stuff he had to overcome. Good heavens. Anyway, it's a great doc. And I like the David Bowie doc too. So there's
No,
all
that
kinds
was
of
yeah.
stuff out there. Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
even the one they did, I think, was it late last year, early this year, the yacht rock one,
Oh God.
which was fantastic.
I know, I guess we're that age where we're supposed to be listening to yacht rock, but I just cannot bring myself to it. I can't do it, Noel. Please don't make me. Don't
No,
put on
it's
a yacht rock
yeah.
channel, please.
I yeah, no, I love that. I just recently this past week I saw Christopher Cross, Toto, and Men at Work in concert, and it was fantastic.
Well, okay, all right. Maybe I need to see him live,
Yeah.
because they're all good musicians. I mean, I remember when Men at Work hit LA. They were
Yeah.
hilarious. They were hilarious.
Yeah.
And, Toto is like producership, Toto got their producership down.
Yeah. And they were all session musicians
Oh,
before they were
yeah.
even Toto, you
Brilliant.
know? Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant, those guys. Beautiful
Yeah.
harmonies.
Yeah. And but now it's like there's two original members in the band, the rest are just like touring musicians. So
Oh,
it's like,
yeah. But
you
that would
know,
that would be fun. I'll tell you something. That tune of theirs, Okay, here's a segue for you.
Right.
Phil Hartman and I were in the Groundlings together,
Right.
and Phil was doing album covers.
That's
He was
right. Yeah.
he designed album covers, and he did all Toto stuff.
Wow.
So I remember Toto, back
Yeah.
in the late 70s. And
Right.
when Phil was doing, I remember him showing me an album cover going, "What do you think?" I said, "Phil, I think I can't draw and you can." Um, no, but beautiful harmonies. I love that tune, Africa.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
blown
And
up now.
Yeah, Rosanna's hot too.
Yeah.
Rosanna's a
Yeah.
hot too.
Yeah. No, like you mentioned Phil, like was he doing all these great impressions that he did on Saturday Night Live in the Groundlings? Did he start with any of those there?
Not really. I mean, no,
No?
he did styles. He was a great
Okay.
stylist. Like,
Right.
you know, uh uh a film noir detective, and
That's
he
right. Yeah.
Noel Coward style, and he had a lot of those styles at his disposal. He really got into the impressions I think when he was in SNL, but he
Okay.
was always an incredibly talented guy, very much
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you get involved in the Groundlings? Like I know they have a pretty
Lorraine Newman.
okay, strict audition, right?
Well, not when I was there. Well,
No?
they
Okay.
started it when I was there. I was working for Lorraine's mom in the
Okay.
publicity department at the Westwood Playhouse in LA when I graduated from UCLA. And I met Lorraine because she was the daughter of the gal that owned the theater.
Okay.
And we got to talking, and she said she was into acting, and I was into acting. And um, I'd spent many, many years training to be a thespian, a Shakespearean actress. I'd studied at ACT. I'd been over to London with the Royal Shakespeare Company. And so I was I had decided that I was going to be a thespian. And Lorraine said, "Well, I mean, you want to be a Shakespearean actress." I'd done some LA Free Shakespeare stuff. And she goes, "Well, that's cool. But, I'm in this, improv company. And, we've got this little shack over on Melrose Avenue. And, why don't you come and check it out?" And I went, "Well, I've heard of improv, but I'm not really into comedy, blah, blah, blah." I was just like too cool for school. So, Lorraine brings me to her sister Tracy's music improv class, and lightning went off in my brain, and I went, "I must be here now." And that's how it happened. She went off. That was the year she went off to do SNL.
Okay.
So I started taking classes, and there was an opening in the show, so I started doing the shows, doing musical improv, actually, improvising songs, and I derailed into comedy full time.
Yeah. We're all glad you did. So yeah. So who was the greatest improv person you worked with there?
Oh, honey, there were too many. And
Right.
it wasn't just the Groundlings. I mean, when I was at the Groundlings, it was I was, hanging with Paul Rubens, Phil Hartman,
Mhm.
Phyllis Katz. Lorraine would come back and forth. Oh, Lordy Mama. I mean, there were just so many extraordinary people. And if they didn't go on to, on-camera careers, they wrote American television for 25 years.
Right.
They were behind the scenes forever. I worked with Off the Wall. I worked with just about every company in town. I worked
Right.
with Off the Wall. Robin Williams and I were friends from San Francisco. So when he came down to LA, he said, "I'm in this improv company. We work above this supermarket on Thursdays or whatever." And he said, "You want to come in?" And I went, "Hell yeah." So I went over
Mhm.
there, and that's where I worked with Robin and Wendy Cutler and, oh God, I can't even remember everybody's name. Really good improvisers. And then, the Spolin players were
Yeah.
happening. The Second City people came into town.
Right.
And then, I mean, the reason I got the Friday show is I was doing a show on Sunset Strip at the Roxy with War Babies, the New York company that
Okay.
came to town, and I started working with them. That was Peter Riegert and Rennie Temple and Susan Krebs and Jed Mills,
Yeah.
who's my husband on Seinfeld.
Oh, okay.
We owned the
I'm
yogurt.
fat yogurt
We,
place. Yeah.
Ed and I, or we're war babies together. So we did this review. It's for HBO. We did a concert for HBO at the Roxy, and that's where John Moffat and Bill Lee saw me and asked me to
Yeah.
audition for Fridays. So I mean, improv companies are like
Yeah.
jazz musicians. There's so much cross
Yeah.
pollination, but I mean, the Groundlings was incredibly fertile ground, and nobody had really. The school was just starting. I remember when I was there, there were these two gorgeous, gorgeous women. Oh my Lord, these two gorgeous girls who were in the school thinking they might want to do a little improv. And it's Daryl Hannah and Rachel Ward.
Oh wow. Okay.
So many people have been through there. It's
Yeah.
crazy. And they had a really good time. I mean, it wasn't their thing, but they
Yeah.
were there to, add to their, acting skill set. And they were lovely. They were lovely. Oh God, who else was there? There's so many people. Uh, and they all went into loop groups and animation and voiceover.
Yeah.
Neil and Lorraine still do, incredible voiceovers. And then there was another company called
Yeah.
Haha with Maggie Roswell and
Okay.
uh, I think Phil Lamar was there for a while. He was also a groundling. And then when those guys
Yeah.
were in Living Color, I mean, there was a lot
Yeah.
going on in town. And also comedy
Yeah.
players, okay? Me, Robin Williams, Taylor Negron, um, Cynthia Seghetti, Anna
Mm,
Mathias. Jesus, I'm forgetting people.
yeah.
Forgive me for forgetting you, but the Comedy Store was happening, and we would go
Okay.
on for the stand-ups.
Okay.
So I got to hang around in the wings with Richard Pryor, Jay Leno, um, you know, well, everybody that was on the scene at that time. Um, I remember one night Robin was out doing his stand-up and Richard Pryor was supposed to follow him.
Yeah.
Richard went, I'm not
Yeah.
following that. And he just left.
Wow.
I went, okay, bye. Good night.
Yeah.
Good night. Yeah, it was a heady scene back then in the late 70s and into the
Yeah.
80s. It was also cool for music too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Mhm.
And Fridays combine like the music and the comedy because you guys had amazing musical acts. You
Oh
know.
God. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, one of the things that's interesting, as we know, I mean, all hail Saturday Night Live. We love Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live is its
Yeah.
own thing. But the one thing had a great reputation for was how horrifying the sound mix was for all the rock bands. God bless them. That was not their forte. We had the sound mix.
Yeah.
And after Kenny Loggins did our show, um, Tom Petty and Kenny Loggins basically told everybody that if you want to be on TV and you want good sound,
Yeah.
Fridays is where you go. So we got
Okay.
everybody.
Right.
We had an incredible Chuck. Oh God, what was his name? Our sound guy for the music was
Yeah.
ridiculously good. He was fantastic. Technically, Fridays was an incredible show. I mean, we landed a helicopter on live television.
Yes.
So, that's John Moffat. John
Right.
Moffat was amazing. And our crew was
Yeah.
outstanding. We had the most amazing crew. The stuff that they could do, anything we could imagine they could do.
Right.
Or they would bust their little asses trying to do it for you.
Mm,
If they could. It was great.
yeah. Yeah. Do you remember some of your favorite skits?
Oh, I love Diner of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
I love the Ronnie Horror Show. I love Father Guido Sarducci and Dawn.
Yeah. Right.
I loved oh God. There were
Praise
a lot.
Satan
Oh,
Club.
well, the thing that I absolutely adored, I loved Bruce Mahler doing the Latino DJ,
Okay.
where he would go, Attention, attention,
Yeah.
los tenders, I mean, he was fabulous with that. And I liked doing Barbara Cartland with him. That was a lot of fun. There's so many, and the Friday Focus stuff with Tommy Kramer going out on
Yeah.
vacation in LA. That was a ton of fun. I had a great time
Yeah.
doing all that. And
Yeah.
Tommy and his skeleton crew, we did one Friday Focus that was like probably one of my favorite things, which was the Muppet Hunt.
Okay.
And we literally, well, first of all, the concept was fantastic, and Jim Henson was a great guy
Uh,
for letting us do it.
yeah.
And we were that's when the seal hunts in the Arctic were on, in the news. And so we decided, to hunt Muppets,
Uh,
just like they hunted seals.
yeah.
And we went out to Zuma Beach and we did all these locations. But the thing that was the best was we got our costumer, Bill Blue, wonderful costumer. He did all of the wardrobe for us, all of our costumes. He made fur coats and things and hats out of Muppets. So we were able to put them in a window on Rodeo Drive. And literally, if you want to use Rodeo Drive as a location,
Yeah.
you have to pay a bazillion
I'm
dollars
sure. Yeah.
to the city of Beverly Hills, right? So so the store let us put them in the window. That was not a problem. We got to do that for free. Come on, we're late night. We don't have it,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So we were able to dress the mannequins in the store window with all of the Muppet fur coats and hats and everything and the purses and all that. But I had to leap out of the van, okay, at a red light, stand in front, do my monologue, and leap back in before it turned green.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So actually, I got to say,
Uh,
I did it in one take, and Tommy took me to dinner for that one. But I mean, that's the kind of stuff we got to do. It was like
yeah.
guerrilla TV in LA,
Yeah.
which was a lot of fun. It was a lot
Right.
of, it was a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
I mean, yeah. The Santa Hunt one was great too. The Friday Focus with
Oh,
the Santa
oh,
Hunt.
oh yeah, it was
That
great.
was, yeah.
That was fun. Wiener Rain. I enjoyed Wiener Rain with all the hot dogs falling on my head. That was
Yeah.
fun too. Yeah, that was good. Wiener Rain was silly, but we had a good time. We had a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Praise Satan Club, that was another great skit.
Oh yeah. Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah. You got
Where am I? And now where am I? I'm in the Bible Belt.
Bible Belt. Yeah. Karma, right? Yeah. Did you guys, what was like the biggest like skit that you got for any of your skits?
The what? The biggest what?
The biggest like, shit you got for any of the skits you guys did, like the
Well,
biggest like blowback.
oh no, I'll tell you true. Okay, I'll tell you true. We started, we did the pilot for the show in the Jimmy Carter administration. We got a green light
Yeah.
and we did a couple of shows, when after Reagan took office.
Right.
It was ABC, which was known to be a fairly conservative network.
Right.
They wanted to get into the late night business, but it's not NBC. So all of a sudden, it's censorship time. The standards and practice guys were all over us.
Right.
The show, the Halloween show, okay? I think it was number 3. Our third show was Diner of the Living Dead, people eating cheese feet and things
Yeah.
like that. Diner of the Living Dead, the American premiere of The Clash, and the Ronnie Horror Show.
Okay. That's some show right there.
So we lost a few affiliates in the South.
Right.
We had got a lecture from Standards and Practices. So, the problem with all that, and oddly enough, where are we now? They're canceling Colbert,
I
and
know.
Stewart's all over it and everybody's all over it. But what happens, and Stewart was right, John was right when
Yeah.
he said, what happens when stuff like that goes down is you start censoring yourself because you don't want the hassle of getting in trouble
Right.
with a government agency or something like that. So you're canceling yourself before the fact. So, of course, what happens to writing staffs in situations like that
Yeah.
is they start writing horrible material with a lot of swear words and a lot of body parts and penis this and vagina
Yeah.
that and all that kind of stuff. And then the guy from censorship comes in and he goes, well, you can have 2 penises, but you can't have 6. And
Yeah.
that's what the writing becomes, because it becomes this numbers game instead of what's funny, what do you need to comment on this week?
Yeah.
And that's why, I mean, you look at SNL, they've been on forever, God bless them.
Yeah.
And they've got a pretty good track record, but every show is not a winner. It
Yeah.
can't be. It can't be the way they work it, and the more cocaine you do, you're not funnier. I'm sorry, you're just not,
Right.
so and also if you're exhausted, you're not funny either. So the thing about, I was talking with a friend the other day about Fridays, and they go, well, what was that like, I said, well, here's the deal. The first season, nobody can believe they have a job.
Right.
You're actually getting paid a little bit of money because it's late night rates.
Yeah.
You're getting paid a little bit of money to do something you really, really like. You never thought you would be this lucky in your whole life. The second season is, oh my God, how can I keep this up? So everybody's doing whatever drug they can do, or every diet they can be on to look
Yeah.
better, feel better, last longer, whatever. Third season is, I'm killing myself. I got a personal trainer now. I got a trainer
Yeah.
and I'm on a special diet from my holistic doctor, and I'm getting acupuncture. Everybody gets healthy in the third season because they realize they can't keep up what they did in the second season.
Yeah.
So, and you look at the writers that have gone in and out of Saturday Night Live, and well, I love, what's his face? Oh God, why did I forget his name? He's so wonderful. The stand-up comic who's out now that's so good.
Oh, John Mulaney.
Yeah, Mulvaney.
Yeah.
Mulvaney. Yeah. Oh my God. I love his special about,
Yeah.
going to rehab.
Yeah.
Oh, he's just brilliant that way. He really is a brilliant comic and a great writer, a really
Yeah.
good writer. Yeah. So,
It,
Fridays was a great job for me because I was totally into the music scene.
right.
Totally into the music scene. Hey, I took Joe Strummer to the dentist. Yeah.
You got to tell me about that.
Well, okay. The thing that was interesting about episode 3, it was literally the American premiere of The Clash. So here are these
Yeah.
boys. Here are these boys who literally just came out of a cold water flat in, I don't know, Brixton,
Right.
which is like London's Bronx, it's like a war zone. Okay. They're in Hollywood. They're getting picked up in a limo at
Yeah.
the airport. Um, they haven't been to a doctor probably ever, right? And they're British, so their teeth are,
Yeah. Awful. Yeah.
are awful. So poor Joe Strummer, he comes, he's sweet. They couldn't have been nicer, and I was just beside
Yeah.
myself. I was beside myself because
Right.
it's
Okay.
it's the Clash.
Clash. Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Oh,
it's the Clash. I was just like a terrier on, speed. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe
yeah.
it. And I could tell something's wrong. Something's wrong with Joe. And, we hung out for a few days. We're doing the show and they're doing their sound
Right.
check and everything. And I said, are you okay? Once I could figure out that, I could actually talk to him, and he goes, I got a toothache. I got a toothache. I said, can you do the show? And he goes, I don't know. It really, really hurts. So I
Yeah.
go to the producers and I go, Joe Strummer has a toothache. He needs to go to a dentist. And John Moffat goes, do you have a dentist that you like? I go, yeah, Dr. Gandon in Beverly Hills. He goes, well, take him. So I put him in my car and I drive Joe Strummer to
Yeah.
my dentist. I say, this is an emergency. This is a punk rock emergency, Dr. Gandon.
Yeah.
You know, and I got him to the dentist and everything was fine. He ended up living
Yeah.
in LA for a number of years. And
Right.
we saw each other a few times. Nice guy, really nice guy. But I mean, they were
Yeah.
in shock. They were in shock, getting the American TV
Yeah.
treatment and getting the Hollywood and
Right.
being someplace sunny and wide open like LA. They
Yeah.
were just it's going. They went to Disneyland.
Right.
So the Clash in
Yeah.
Disneyland was interesting. Anyhow, stuff like that happened all the time. And it was really, my dad was a musician, so I grew
Okay.
up with musicians, and it was just great to get to know some of your heroes. That was really good for me.
Yeah.
So, because I was on a rock and roll show,
Right.
um, you know, all doors were open in LA All the clubs were open. I don't think I paid for a ticket or cover charge or worried about getting in anywhere in town for about, I don't know, 6, 7 years.
Nice. Yeah.
I had my 15 minutes of fame. It was so exciting. It was,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I gotta ask you about the Andy Kaufman skit.
yeah, that seems to
Yeah.
be perennial.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. I really don't want to touch with it with I had Melanie on, so I'll ask you because was it real? Was it scripted? I mean, because you broke down a circle laughing halfway through, which was really funny. But
Yeah. I thought it was super stupid. But what we knew was that Andy would do something. And I knew Andy would do something. I couldn't
yeah,
believe he was doing a straight sketch. I knew Andy from the improv.
right.
I was a dancing girl in his act at the improv when he was playing bongos.
Okay.
And so Andy and I were buds. And I did a taxi with him. And I really loved Andy
Yeah,
Kaufman. I love that guy.
yeah,
He's a performance artist. You
right.
know, that was his thing. And he really introduced that into the scene. So when we'd been palling around all week and we'd been, he was in doing some other stuff. And it was interesting to me. And I also think probably to Melanie too, because I was an improviser. I'd been doing 3 or 4 serious years of improv up to getting the Fridays job. And so improv was not an art form that scared me at all. And it didn't scare Melanie at all either. And, the fact that the sketch derailed into some sort of combat was such a guy thing.
Yeah, right.
And that's why I was laughing. I went, oh my God, there are so many other choices that you guys could make besides
Yeah,
beating the hell out of each other. Why do guys always default to boxing,
yeah,
beating each other up? Use your words. But I guess they don't have words. So,
yeah,
and Andy was really good at words,
yeah,
and had they been capable of following him where he wanted to go, it wouldn't have been a big fight.
right.
Andy was better than that. And Jack Burns diving in. Here's the worst thing
Yeah,
about that whole sketch from an insider's point of view. Nobody told our crew.
okay.
Nobody told the crew, which was awful. We were
Right.
told between dress and air, the actors were told between dress and air that Andy was going to do something. So be prepared.
Yeah,
I went, okay, this will be whatever it's going to be. Okay. Nobody told the crew. Now, this crew, if Friday, like I said before, if Fridays had
yeah,
one thing going for it, it was that we had the
yeah,
most amazing technical crew,
uh,
loyal guys who would bust their ass to do whatever we needed them to do.
right.
Cameramen, prop guys, gaffers, all these guys, amazing. Nobody told them. They leapt in
uh,
to make sure Melanie and I were
we're
safe.
okay.
And they were doing it for real.
Right.
And they felt so betrayed. All the producers had to do was say,
Yeah,
hey Rocky, tell everybody that Andy's going
yeah,
to do something stupid or something weird. Just
yeah,
be prepared. It's not harmful.
right.
You don't have to worry about it. Just put the camera on it. Now, the fact that the camera caught everything that it caught was a testament to the fact that we had incredible camera.
Right.
So I don't know. And of course, it's live TV. It proved that everything was live and blah, blah, blah. I just think, it could have been better. But,
Yeah,
Andy's Andy. And, he was a very special, he was like a bridge in the comedy world. He was
yeah,
a bridge between straight Borscht Belt stand up, write your monologue, do
yeah,
300 nights a year, wherever you go. That kind of skill set to introducing improvisation and spontaneity that was very different, and performance art. So anyway, yeah, I laughed because I thought it was pretty stupid.
yeah. 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 The documentary on him was really well done as well.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
did a really good job. And
Yeah.
he had he had and still has very loyal um, friends and managers
Right.
and people who keep the spirit of what he did alive and incredibly loyal followers. So,
Yeah.
he's a good guy. He, he,
Yeah.
he was a talented man. Um, yeah, I enjoyed working with him.
Right. Yeah. I can imagine. Yeah. And then you mentioned Seinfeld before. Was that just Larry calling you up, say, hey, you want to do this? No audition, no anything?
Yeah, I was in the bathtub and I got a phone call from Larry. He said, "Hey, I wrote a part for you on Seinfeld. Do you want to do it?" And I said, "What's the character's name?" And he said, Mary Edith. I went, "Well, then I better do it."
Yeah, exactly.
And how many did I do? I did like five. I became this nagging neighbor. And
Yeah.
when I was inducted into the Museum of Radio and Television in Beverly Hills. Um, for being the first woman to have, I was the most bleeped character on television. And I didn't even know what that was. I
Right.
get this call and I called up Larry and I go, Larry, what is this, Museum of Radio and Television?
Yeah.
Is it a thing? Is it something I have to go to? He goes, yeah, we all have to go. And he goes, you're in there for, saying, the F word a million times
Yeah.
in one episode. I went, really? They're giving me an award for that?
For
I
that.
said, they should give that to you. You wrote that. He goes, well, I have to be there
Yeah.
anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah, I went, well, great. Now I have this distinction that I can tell my mother,
Yeah.
the most swear words in an episode of television. But yeah, yeah, he literally called me up. And I'll tell you something, he's the only guy in my entire career who has ever given me a job.
Oh,
Just given it to me. Just called
right.
me up and said, this, you have this if you want this. It's the one and only time it's ever happened to me. I mean, people have had me
Yeah.
back or they've interviewed me.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, you got the gig. But nobody said, I've written something for you.
Yeah.
Would love for you to do it because we're friends. And like I said, it's the gift that keeps on giving. I
Yeah.
just I just keep getting checks for Seinfeld.
Yeah. Yeah. And like those episodes were brilliant. I mean, more or less they all are. But I mean, just the whole like, non-fat yogurt and then ended up bringing,
Well,
Giuliani involved. It was brilliant.
nobody ever, it's interesting because the one constant in my career thus far is the difference between the energy and the savvy of people who make the shows, who write them,
Right.
who perform them, who mount them, who design them, who do all of that, and the executives who think they know what's going to happen to a show. The executives are always casting a star that they build a show around, and they think that star
Yeah.
is going to be the star of the show. And it ends up being the third guy from the left who gets all the mail, and now they have to start
Right.
that guy instead. That happened with Fridays. That happens with everything. Nobody thought Seinfeld, no network exec. I mean, in fact, they tried really, really hard not to have Seinfeld.
Right.
And it ends up being a classic.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens all the time. Not that creatives know what they're doing so much either, but at least, at least they have some energy behind what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they're creative because they have sort of a sense of the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
They have they're out on the street. The executives are in are up in the penthouse and they don't know what's funny.
Yeah.
Clue. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seinfeld
I mean,
was a lot of fun.
yeah. I mean, because now that show would have been canceled after two episodes.
It never would have been made. It never would have
Yeah.
aired. It
That's
never,
that's true. Yeah.
never would have aired. First of all, there's not a dead body. There are no guns.
Yeah.
Nobody's doing open heart surgery or getting raped.
Right. That's true.
If you look at TV, at all the streaming and stuff, I tell you during COVID, I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't watch any more
Yeah.
Nordic detective series with dead bodies under the ice. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I went, I'm going to shoot myself in the head. This is too depressing.
Yeah.
The bulk of TV is really bizarre. It's just bizarre.
Yeah. So it kind of goes back to earlier about like comedy now. People are afraid to write, for certain
Hmm.
things. Is that why comedy is pretty much like dead now?
Well, I don't think it's dead.
Not dead, but like a dark period, so to speak.
Look, one of the reasons I stopped doing improv on stage. Um, when I started doing improv, it was the late 70s,
Yeah.
and into the 80s. The audiences were smart. And when I say smart, I mean they were literate, they read, the suggestions that you would get at an improv show were fun.
Yeah.
They were challenging, you know. And then improv kind of turned into people cracking wise, standing in one place. Nobody was doing mime. Nobody was creating a space. Nobody, it wasn't a second city model. It wasn't a groundling model. And the audiences were dumbed down. Not because of what was going on stage, but they had all it was like, two proctologists in a rowboat, a nun and a proctologist in a
Yeah.
rowboat, you know, and the audiences didn't get the jokes because they were stupid. I'm sorry, they were stupid
Yeah.
because they were into other things.
Right.
And also, as any stand-up performer will tell you, um, if there's no safe place to work out, if your audience can't hear a word, if your audience is there to cancel whoever makes them uncomfortable, you can't create art in a space where you have to worry about if everybody's comfortable.
Right.
I mean, I'm not talking about racism. I'm not
No.
talking about, hardcore misogyny, toxic masculinity, or any of the buzzwords we have now. I'm talking about if you don't, if you think every time an actor adopts an accent, they're co-opting an entire culture, I can't help you, you know? I can't help you. Don't go out if you're going to be offended by everything that happens on a stage. Don't
Yeah.
leave your house. Just watch the three channels you love for the rest of your life. Stay inside. Because, like Fran Lebowitz says, the only thing wrong with outside is the public.
Okay.
You know,
So true. Yeah.
so the audience has changed that way. Everybody got really sensitive, and humor is cultural. Not everybody thinks the same stuff is funny.
Oh,
So funny is really based on this sort of group culture that we're all in, whether we like it or not. Just like vaccines, it only works if there's herd immunity.
yeah.
Comedy only works if there's herd immunity. If everybody agrees to lighten up a little bit and enjoy. But if everybody's just looking for an opportunity to sue you or to ruin your career because they didn't like the character you played last night in some obscure club in Pasadena, where are the comics going to come from
Right.
if they can't work out? Where are the improvisers and the satirists? We live in a culture that's really afraid of satire. And thank God for Lorne Michaels and NBC for protecting all those people who do Saturday Night Live, because they're getting bad mail.
I'm sure. Yeah.
They're getting frightening mail. So I think that's where we're at. I don't think comedy's dead. I think people think it's online. Everybody who can do a meme thinks they're funny.
Yeah.
And people don't really understand, like nobody understands what actors do. Nobody understands it's a craft that the good ones train years for. They think everybody's got good hair and nice teeth, and so they got a break. They got a lucky break, and now they're movie stars. You know, nobody knows how much work goes into it. Nobody knows how much work goes into writing comedy. Comedy is the hardest thing in the world to do.
Absolutely.
And, not to denigrate drama. Good drama isn't easy either. But comedy, good comedy is music. It really is. It all depends on rhythm and pace and how to create situations. It's really hard to do, especially sketches because they're so short.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot going on out there today. And I don't know, the culture's in a big transition period, obviously. And it's not just, are you Republican or Democrat or what politics you do, whatever that. It's like there are two or three generations now that have been raised to think that it's everybody's job to make them happy.
Yeah.
And that's not what a society is. Like, so I don't know. I've lived to see a lot of stuff, so.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You and me both.
I guess I'm fairly opinionated, but
Yeah. No,
no,
there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
no, I just, I've been doing some teaching in universities, and that's an interesting situation.
I'm
Oh my
sure.
God. Oh my God. I don't know how much longer I can last. I do feel sorry for some kids out there, because nobody told them that not everybody was raised like them.
Yeah.
Nobody prepared them for any kind of multicultural experience. I mean, you're in Manhattan. I mean, multicultural is in your
Ye-
face. Every
Yeah. I mean, right. I mean, but I live in Connecticut. I mean, I grew up in Queens, so that's like
okay,
multicultural. It's fine. But now, with three kids and stuff, my oldest is a senior in college. So going to college for him, I mean, it's like pretty much everyone is the same. Growing up in Connecticut, pretty much everyone's the same. So it's going to be interesting when he goes out in the world, discovering stuff. But I mean, he can adapt. I mean, I'm not really concerned about him or my other two kids. It's just,
good, good.
but you see that, and it's
Well,
like,
they've
yeah,
had you for a dad, and
yeah. I told him what not to do, so it was good.
well, no, I mean, you have a podcast and you're interviewing people. You're a curious person. You're
Yeah,
curious. You're curious about this. You're curious about that. This person, that show. Blah blah blah. You're curious about pop culture and the people who made it. Um, what gets me with some of my students at university is their lack of curiosity. They come in, they go, what do I need to do? What are the 5 steps I need to
right.
do to get an A in this class? Why do you want an A? Because that's what education is about.
Uh,
Education is about scoring grades. Well, shouldn't education be
mhm.
about intellectual
Yeah,
curiosity and preparing you to be a person in the world going forward? Maybe take a class that isn't
yeah,
specifically designed to get you a job,
yeah,
especially in the arts. I mean, I'm teaching these like film classes and I'm
yeah,
teaching, acting classes and, playwriting and things like that. And these kids come in, how do I get an A in playwriting?
right.
I said, I may not even grade this course. You know,
Yeah,
you know, live with that. You can grade playwriting. I guess I can give you, a grade if you show up.
yeah. That's about it. Yeah,
So, it's been fascinating, fascinating. But there's always one or two. There's always one or two
yeah.
really curious kids. And then you meet their parents and you go, "Oh, okay.
I
I
see
get
why. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, they have parents who spent some time with them. And okay,
yeah,
yeah, mom and dad are curious people. They've traveled a little bit. They read some stuff, it's interesting. So I don't know. We're in transition in this nation, certainly. And I'm a climate refugee, so
yeah,
I'm in a different place.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I always mean love spending time with my kids. And if they ask me to do something, I'll do because there's going to be a time in my life and their life when they're going to stop asking. It's going to be like the cat's in the cradle. So, you
Yeah.
know, I'm gonna
I'm
be
too
like
busy,
him.
Dad. I'm too busy, Dad.
Yeah, exactly. Do you want to do something? Sure, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Within reason, of course, but yeah.
Yeah.
you know,
Of
yeah.
course. That's the
And
joy. That's the joy of kids. You
yeah.
know, I I never had that pleasure, really. I mean,
Yeah.
I've had my share of romantic liaisons, but
Right.
children was not in the cards for me, you know.
Okay.
Thank you, God. But no, I mean, yeah, I always thought it might happen, but it wasn't to be. So I had to sort
Yeah.
of, work my way around what my role might be if I'm not a bio mom, you know.
Right.
And I like mentoring kids, I
That's great.
really
Yeah.
I like being the one that they'll talk to about sex because they can't do it with their dad, you know.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know? I like the one, okay, here's the deal.
Right.
Don't just say no, say maybe, but
Yeah.
do research, that kind of thing.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's true. Because I mean, I grew up with a single mom. Never knew my dad. So just me and my
Uh-huh.
mom.
Uh-huh.
Some things I was comfortable talking with her, some things I wasn't. My oldest son, however, he's in a long-term relationship now with his girlfriend. He put together this picture with him and his girlfriend in a photo album, he showed us the album with, certain pictures, and then they get to this one picture where they're in bed together. And,
Hmm.
they're like, covered up, but it's like, guess who is not virgins anymore? And then that's and that's how he told us. She was there, like she was okay with it, but it was like amazing. It was just like bravo. Not because he, had it, but he was creative enough with her to tell us that. And my wife was there too, and she thought it was great. It was like the funniest thing. So I'm like,
Oh my
bravo. I'm like,
Lord.
bravo, Zach, because you got us there.
That's fabulous.
Yeah, and the fact that his girlfriend was comfortable enough to do that with him was
Oh,
great.
well, they
And
must
she,
love you. They love you and trust you. That's great.
yeah, absolutely. Because I don't think he did that with her parents, though. Yeah, but it was funny. But yeah, yeah. So switching gears a little bit, I was a huge fan of Fairy Tale Theater. I used to watch it all the time. And, it's on Showtime. I just watched it. Shelley Duvall was amazing. Unfortunately, we lost her last year. How did you get involved in that?
Well, Shelley was a guest host on Fridays. And, it was the birth of cable TV back in the 80s.
Right.
And Shelley and I got along great. And I loved her work. And, you know, we did sketches together on the show. And, she was lovely. And she said, well, give me your number and
Yeah.
maybe we'll go have dinner or whatever, we had mutual friends and it was really sweet. And then about 6 months later, I should say 6 months after Fridays went off the air, uh, um, I got a call from this gal, Bridget Terry, who was producing a show for Showtime with Shelley Duvall, Fairy Tale Theater. And she said, Shelley remembers you from Fridays. She would really like you to be a writer on the show. Do you have any
Yeah.
samples of 1 hour material? And I didn't. All I had was sketches. I
Yeah.
had some sketches and I'd done some work on Mary Hartman, but I was just a dialogue writer and it was like, I didn't have anything. And I said, well, no, but can I write one? And she said, yeah, how long will it take you to write one? I said, how about a week? Can I had no idea
Yeah.
what I was
Right.
doing at all. And, she said, sure. So I think I wrote like a sample script of Thumbelina or something.
Right.
That's what it was. And, I got the job. I got a job.
Yeah.
And there were two other Fridays writers on staff also, and then some other people. But the thing that was
Yeah.
incredible about Fairy Tale Theater, Shelley and Bridget, Terry, and Showtime,
Yeah.
because Showtime didn't know what it didn't know, because it was
Right.
a brand new network. Okay. And all they knew is they had this incredible movie star, Shelley Duvall, and whatever she wanted, they would try
Yeah.
to say yes to. And she had a budget, and as long as she stayed in the budget,
It's fine.
right, that was fine. As far as I know, to date, it is the only show that cross-pollinated genres. I mean, genres of talent.
Right.
Feature directors,
Yeah, Francis Ford Coppola, right?
Francis
Nicholas
Coppola,
Meyer.
Maddock, Michael Lindsay Hogg. It was the first long form gig Tim Burton ever had. Uh, Theatrical designers, stage designers, and
Yeah.
costumers from the LA Music Center. Actors, film actors, TV actors. Back then, if you were a TV person,
You're a
you
TV person.
you never got a film gig.
Right.
If you were a film person, you would never dirty your feet by walking into a TV studio. It was, you were prestigious, TV wasn't. And there were really hard and fast lines between who could do what. And
Yeah.
all the agents kept those lines, all the producers kept those lines. I think it was like a huge big deal when Sally Field, the flying nun, got in, the movie Stay
Yeah.
Hungry with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, it was like a huge big deal. This never happened in the history of the world.
Yeah.
So here's Shelley. Um, we're doing Snow Queen with Lee Remick. I think that was Michael Lindsay Hogg or Peter Maddock. I forget. Francis
Yeah.
Coppola,
Yeah.
and so when we get together on a Sunday to read a script, everybody's in the room together. And Francis Coppola is turning to me and he's going, Maryedith, what do you mean by this line? And I'm going, oh my God, Francis Ford Coppola is talking to me.
Yeah.
So I should talk back. I mean, I was just beside myself. So I did a bunch of those. And it was, I mean, Susan Sarandon, Klaus Kinski,
Yeah.
um, Tim. Tim was a student at Cal Arts, and I had seen his short at some groundlings had a copy of his short, Frankenweenie. And so I recommended Tim to Shelley to do Shivers if she wanted to give a new guy a job.
Yeah.
She loved his short film. So he came in to do Shivers. And then Paul was doing the Pee Wee show uh, on Sunset. He had graduated from the Groundlings stage to the Roxy on Sunset. And he was looking for, because somebody wanted him to do a movie and he was looking for a director. I said, Paul, you got to meet this guy, Tim Burton.
Right.
And so he came down to the set of Shivers, and the two of them got on like gangbusters. I mean, they were like,
Yeah.
two 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 punk nerds. But and Tim's always been goth. Tim was
Yeah.
always, but it was an incredible place to be. Fairy Tale Theatre. Um, Also technically, because they were doing a lot of green screen stuff that hadn't really been done on TV before. And so I remember Carrie Fisher had to fly on the back of a dragonfly for Thumbelina over a river. And so we shot that. We shot Carrie on green screen, and then we went to Shelley Duvall's backyard off Laurel Canyon because she had a little creek in her backyard. And the camera guys, I mean, it was really like home movies. The camera guys were like shooting the creek and trying to match it to the green screen. I mean, plus we had all these theater actors that were doing the mummers that were an LA mime group, and these sort of rep actors that were working at the Odyssey and downtown at the Mark Taper Forum. So they would be all our supporting players. So they would be like the dogs and the cats and
Yeah.
the butterflies and all that kind of stuff. And they were having a ball. And they were working. They couldn't believe they were working and getting paid. It was really a very creative time. And she was, Shelley's a country girl from Texas. And she didn't know why she would have to take bullshit from anyone. Nobody ever told her that she had to take bullshit from anybody. And if she could figure out how to shoot something, she would not put up with guys telling her it couldn't be done. She just didn't, she just thought that they were
Yeah,
missing. She was never an aggressive person,
right.
but she just treated guys that knew how to do one thing very well, like they were unfortunately misinformed about other possibilities. So her manner was such that she got whatever she wanted because not because of feminine wiles, just because she was a
Yeah.
very clever, intelligent person who treated people beautifully.
Yep.
You know, so we would
Yeah.
all fall off a building for her. We didn't care. Shelley,
Right.
jump off this building, no problem.
Sure. Right.
The guy said Cruz loved her. Cruz loved her because
Yeah.
she was having a great time. And she was making Showtime money,
Most
which they
important thing, right?
never expected that the show would make money.
Yeah.
And she was one of the first, that show was one of the first to really capitalize on video sales in stores. VHS or whatever it was, like a Blockbuster or whatever, because parents would come in and try and get them for their kids.
Absolutely. And the parents wanted to watch it because of the stars in it. I mean, it was just like it was perfect.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
did, I don't know, Thumbelina, Snow Queen, Shivers, Dancing Princesses, Kira Sedgwick, Frances McDormand,
Yeah. I mean,
one of the first jobs they ever had.
right.
One of the princesses, Leslie Ann Warren was the main princess. I mean, it was incredible. Klaus Kinski was a trip.
I'm sure.
Klaus, Klaus was Nosferatu. He was, there's a reason it's very funny. I remember Shelley. We were having a difficult rehearsal with Klaus Kinski, and Shelley and I are walking out in the hallway, and she kind of turns to me and she goes, "Well, Nosferatu, typecasting, huh?" I went, "Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I need an aspirin." Yeah. But he gave a wonderful performance ultimately, but he was not an
Yeah.
easy man. He was not an easy man.
Right.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Fun. It was fun. I love that show.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll ask you about one more because I know I'm taking up a lot of your time today and I appreciate this. But late 80s, early 90s, there were a ton of like TV shows that were just based on movies that, it was like Ferris Bueller, like League of Their Own, they had Uncle Buck, and then
Hmm.
Parenthood.
Hmm.
You did the first TV version of Parenthood with
Yeah.
Ron Howard, right? That was
Ron
his,
Howard, Ed
yeah,
Begley. Yeah.
yeah. And Josh Whedon, I think, wrote some
Yeah.
of them. And yeah, he
Yeah.
was, yeah,
Soon to go on to Buffy. Yeah.
yeah, and then some other issues, but I won't get into that. But
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, you had a difficult task. I mean, to reprise the role that Diane Weiss played, she was nominated for an Oscar, and then I
Oh,
mean,
oh
that's got to
yeah.
be difficult. You,
I
you did a
was,
good job.
bless you. I was paralyzed with fear because I am and will always be a super fan
Yeah,
of Diane
yeah,
Weiss.
she's great. Yeah.
Super fan. A super fan with the Allen movie. Don't speak. Oh, she was fab. Um, and I'd seen her on stage in Othello in New York, and I've been a fan from her theater work, way back. And when I found out that I'd been asked to audition for the part that she did in Parenthood, I went, "Oh my God." And back then there weren't a whole lot of TV shows that were based on movies. I mean, up to that point,
Right.
then there was
Yeah,
a
it was March after, right?
so the idea of reprising a role that had been so acknowledged was frightening, frightening. And I thought, I talked to my agent about it, and she said, "Look, this is a great opportunity. Great. I think Lorna Patterson did reprised Goldie Hawn in Private Benjamin.
Yeah, yeah,
And she was paralyzed by that too. But so I thought, well, what the hell? I knew Ron Howard from Happy Days, social circles. I never did the show Happy Days, but the Credibility Gap guys, David
yeah,
Leiter and Michael McKeon and Lenny and Squiggy, and
right.
we worked at the Improv together. And so, I knew him. He would come around, and he was an actor, and like that. And so I thought, at the very least, I want to audition for Ron. because maybe I'll get something else down the road. And so that's how I
Yeah.
approached it, right? And it was so cleverly written. The audition scenes were so clever. It was Babalu Mandel and Lowell Gantz who did the movie.
Yeah. Right.
And so I go in, my first audition, they put me on, they film it. They film it. And I felt like I did a really good job. That's the best thing you can do. You walk
Yeah.
out, well, I did not embarrass the family.
Right.
Did my best. That's all I can do. If they want somebody who looks like me, maybe I'll get the job. That's it. And then I got called back and they wanted to put me on film again. And I thought, well, okay. So I go into this audition and I'm halfway through and the power goes out in the building. The power goes out in the building. There is a brownout in Universal City. And of course, everything comes to a screeching halt. And I'm standing there like a lox, hi, hi, and Ron's like, oh, Maryedith, I'm so sorry. Oh, hell, what happened? And oh God. And so we're waiting, we're trying to figure it out. We're gonna go, we're gonna stay. What are we gonna do? Then the power comes back and they go, oh, well, let's pick up where we left off. Well, that's an actor's nightmare. You have like a 10-minute interruption in your
Yeah.
performance, and you're supposed to
I
go,
remember.
oh,
Yeah.
I don't remember. He said this, and now I'm saying this. I was just like death.
Yeah.
It was death. I got through it. I left. I called my agent. I'm in tears. I go, I'm not getting this job. And I told her what happened. And she goes, oh my God. Right. Well, my agent calls Ron Howard, and Ron Howard's an actor. He knows that was the worst possible thing that could ever happen to me.
Yeah.
It's horrible. And he said, don't worry, we have the first one. That's the one we'll send to the network. And she said, she'll come back in. She'll do it again. He goes, we don't need it. The first one was great. And I thought, well, I'm dead now. And then I get the network audition. And the network audition, if anybody doesn't know what that is, back then in those days, it's live in front of everyone at the network in a little tiny auditorium in the network skyscraper. And you spend about a half an hour signing contracts before you have to go in and do your dog and pony show in front of a bunch of
Right.
executives who don't laugh, don't clap, don't do anything. And it's like a private little play for them. And it's you, and you get to look at everybody else who's up for your part because you're all sitting out there on the sofa together. It's barbaric. It's absolutely barbaric. So I did the pony show, and then I got it, which was, oh my Lord. Um, and the cast was wonderful. Everybody I worked with was great. Um, it didn't last long
Yeah.
because the network had the brilliant idea that now that they have this incredible hit movie and an incredible show based on it with really good people writing and directing, and Alan Arkish was the director, who's great. Mr. Rock and Roll High School. We got along like
Mhm.
buzzers.
Yeah.
No, they decided that it would be really good to do a half an hour on
Uh,
Tuesday, another half hour on Thursday of the same episode.
so that doesn't make
So
sense.
one half of a show on Tuesday
Yeah.
and another half of a show on Thursday. And then they wondered why the audience didn't know where the show was.
Right.
Yeah. I thought Ed Begley was going to like set them on fire. You know,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, it was an interesting time. It was lovely because for me as an actor, I learned a lot on that show. Because we had a DP, director of photography, who had worked in the old studio system. He was an older guy. Forgive me, I can't remember his name, but he had like worked with Marlena Dietrich or something.
Wow. Okay.
And so he had everybody come in and do tests so that he could figure out what their lens was, what their lighting was for all of everybody's close-ups.
Okay.
And so he taught me what to do. and he said, well, what do you want to look like? I said, I want to look like a Raphael Madonna. He went, no problem, Mary, we'll fix that. I mean, we had a good time, but I
Right.
mean, but so that he could work quickly, he wouldn't have to think, and his team would automatically
Yeah.
know this is a 10 and a 40 and a this and a this. It's Mary's close up. Do this, boom, 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 And he was great. I learned so much about filmmaking because it was a film,
Yeah.
wasn't for camera tape.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah. And your son in the show was very young, Leonardo
Yes,
DiCaprio.
Leonardo. And does
Yeah.
Leo return my calls? No.
No.
No,
Well,
Leo does not
because
return
you're
my calls.
because you're over 25, right?
I knew the thing that was cool about Leo, first of all, what a beautiful boy. I mean, I burst into tears when I saw him. I went, this is my son. Oh my God, I have
Yeah.
the most beautiful creature on the planet. Beautiful little 12-year-old blonde boy. Oh my Lord. Very quiet, kept his own counsel. The only time he ever asked me to help him do anything was he had a scene in the show. I mean, he was always prepared and always totally,
Yeah.
and you could tell he was gifted, because actors are born. I mean, he was gifted. And the only thing he ever asked me to help him with, he took me aside one day and he goes, Maryedith, I got a scene coming up and I don't know what to do. I said, well, what is it, Leo? What do they have for you? He goes, I have to kiss a girl. And I said, oh, okay. I said, do you want to know what would you like to know? He goes, well, I mean, there's camera angles and all that stuff. And he goes, I know that, I can do that. He goes, but what do I say to her before we do the scene? And so he was so cute. His parents are artists. So he grew up in a fairly bohemian atmosphere.
Right.
But they never pushed him to do anything. His mother told me he just came home one day and said, hey, I auditioned for something. He's 12. I auditioned for something.
Yeah.
I went to Universal. How'd you get there? I took the bus. He just did it all on his own. Um, but I knew there was something special about that kid. I really did. I mean, you could tell. You could.
Yeah.
So anyway, but everybody who did that show was lovely. Jane Atkinson, she's still doing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. No, she's great. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and,
And,
and Begley Jr., man,
yeah.
the man rode his bike to work every day.
Yeah.
He's the
Fantastic.
first,
Yeah.
he's the first hardcore environmentalist I ever met.
Right.
Yeah, he's hardcore. Always has been.
Yeah. Right.
So it was a fun show. And doing the pilot with Ron Howard. Oh my God. Oh, I have a quote for you since you're a dad.
Yeah.
You're a dad. William Wyndham, I mean, he was a legend when he did that show. He'd been on
Yeah.
vintage TV. And,
Right.
he was on his second family when he did that show. And we were doing the pilot. He played my dad, right, in the show. And he had this great saying about being a parent. He said, parenthood is the only job. If you do it right, you get fired.
That is so true.
If you're doing it right, you get fired.
Right. Yeah.
If you don't do it right, they're with you forever. I gotta go. I'm supposed to be in a meeting. I'm having too much fun talking to you now.
Yeah, no, this was great. Thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, beautiful. This was fun. I'm glad we got together.
And a special thanks to Maryedith for joining me today. You can check out a bunch of clips of Fridays on YouTube, as well as Faerie Tale Theatre. And if you have a guest suggestion, you can hit me up on X, formerly Twitter, at @thefirsnoel19. And be sure to like the page Reliving My Youth on Facebook. Go to iTunes, check out all the past episodes we've had. While you're there, please rate and review the show. I would really appreciate it. You don't have iTunes? Not a problem. Show's on SoundCloud, Spotify, Podbean, Amazon Music, YouTube, basically wherever you can find a podcast. A new episode will come out soon. Stay safe, everybody. We'll see you then.